Hey, geek protagonist. So I got a little something here. I want to talk about this commentary that Jim Lee talked about. You know what I'm saying? And with him saying stuff, it's kind of odd. So, and I've seen some people now already running with videos I knew was going to happen. A couple, like I follow different types of people, different, political persuasions and stuff like that. So I know someone like, yeah, Jim Lee said the comic book industry is dying. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not what he said. He was saying more that why he thinks manga is doing better. So what he said was, I think manga has a distinct advantage over American comics. Don't worry, I'll put the thing on here. I think this is the whole thing. American comics are almost entirely about superheroes. That is where the sales and the vast majority of the readership are concentrated. Japan's industry is something closer to literature. It's something everyone reads, and it isn't limited to stories about heroes. There are stories about cooking, stories about soccer. There is a much broader range of genres to draw stories from. He framed manga's success as both a challenge and a learning opportunity, which he did say something on there. Like I said, I'll put his comment on there. Noting that the key issue is now how to imitate manga's arts, not how to imitate manga's art style, but how to understand the sensibilities behind the stories that resonate with the readers in Japan and abroad. Stories that succeed in the Japanese market, he said, often differ fundamentally from those that succeed in the West. Lee also added that manga and anime are not perceived as media for children in Japan, freeing them from any shackles of being restricted to certain age group. According to him, this allowed the medium to become more popular. And he says, in the West, comics and animation have been long perceived as media for children. People assume that once you become an adult, you move to live action, but in Japan, that isn't the case. Not only is the range of genres vast, but adults read manga and watch anime too as a culture. It is an art form that isn't restricted to a specific age group. I believe this is another key reason why Japanese manga and anime are garnering such popularity. And then he also says something I'm not reading. I'm just trying to get to his statements. Stories that succeed in Japan are very different from those that succeed in the West. What we can learn from that difference, I think, is an ongoing debate. I don't have the exact answer myself. If we had the answer, we would already have the same sales figures and readership numbers. Now, I do remember he says something too along the lines with that about the numbers. Now, here's where I have a problem. And he's pretty much like my favorite artist when it comes to comics and stuff. Okay. From that statement there, here's one of the problems I have. Jim Lee, you are the president of DC. And as I'm talking, I'm going to be putting pictures up of different comic books that aren't superhero comics. There's even sports ones and stuff too. I mean, you and your comics alone, you've done what? Preacher, which is not superhero. V for Vendetta, which is not superhero. American Vampire, which is not superhero. Lucifer, Gotham Academy, Sandman. All those are not superhero genre. Also, we're going to talk about the fact that there was a time when superhero comics weren't even the most popular, and they actually went back to westerns and horror and stuff, and space. Buck Rogers and all that. Also, I get a lot of indie comics. A lot of those comics, yes, there are superhero comics, but a lot of them aren't superhero. They're adventure stories with stuff, maybe with a character that has a weapon or something like that, or like Ghost Pepper. That comic, which is a space thing, but it's about someone with that has like a food thing, and this guy's like super strong, and it's not a superhero story, it's a sci-fi story. Or Transformers, which is a sci-fi story. Void Rivals, doing very well. G.I. Joe, that's doing well. Not superheroes. And they're some of the top-selling comics currently. Conan is doing very well. Not superhero. And a lot of manga and anime is actually right now a lot of isekai, fantasy, and stuff like that. And yes, there are comics that deal with food. Yes, there are comics that deal with other stuff. Dogman's not. So the problem I have is that when he says people look at it like this, he goes, adults in Japan don't look at anime that certain way. Well, remember, there's a thing there's an otaku. That wasn't really a great term in Japan to be called that. you were kind of looked down upon in society on there too. Until more recent years. Now, here's the other funny thing. Yes, there are adults who look at cartoons and no matter if it's animation, they go, that's kid thing. There are also adults who watch things like Love Island and reality television, which is fake TV. It's made up crap. They cut things together. They've even openly admitted it. They cut things together. They goat people to do stuff. Yet these people eat that up. And it's garbage TV. Yes, sorry if you love reality TV. Reality TV is garbage. It's literally a bunch of people that they set things up. They'll take a conversation and clip a thing from here and clip a thing from 3 weeks later and put it together. There ain't that much drama in the world in somebody's life. But people eat it up. Because people want to be entertained. One of the problems is that it's partially promotion. The fact that you are like, it's mostly centered around superheroes. That's because of what you guys push. For example, you come up with a new character and people go, it's really hard to get a new character over. Well, yeah, because you're not putting that character most times in a good story, or you kind of ride them and then let it fall off. There's a character Marvel came out with that I loved. I bought the comics for, called Gravity. He was even in Robert Kirkman's Marvel Team Up. I've seen the character like 2 other things recently. That's about it. Bunker. Teen Titan character I loved. Don't see him anymore. The issue isn't just the fact that you're doing superhero stories. There's a reason why Absolute and Ultimates is doing well, because Wonder Woman's story deals with magic and Greek stuff. And yes, she's a superhero. I'm talking about Absolute Universe. But she deals with all this stuff to the point where people are like, why is the main line like this? Because when you're writing the superhero story, a lot of times you're kind of doing the paint by numbers. Now, does that mean that all comics are bad? No, I'm not one of those people who sit there and go, everything in the mainstream is bad and you should buy my comic. Blah, 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 blah. The grifter guys, because they swear everything is bad, which is stupid. And I follow some of these people to watch what they talk about, to see things they talk about. Sometimes they talk about stuff about other people. Now I'm going to give you an example. I'm not trying to throw it or anything. Just, it is what it is. I'm giving an example of one person that does say this stuff repeatedly. Not because I'm trying to blow them under the bus, so please don't get that. It's literally just because I needed to use an example. So there is a guy, JDA Talks, Josh Del Rose or whatever. Now, he talks about some of the stuff that goes on with like Comicsgate, stuff like that. And I check out those videos because to keep up with like who's rivaling. You got like Eric July and all of them. And I watch all these different people. I watch Comics Drake, Blurred. He usually has a really cool cover. I like how he does his coverages and stuff. I don't agree with everything Blurred Without Fear says. Rob from Comics Explained. So I watch all different types of people that talk about comics in different levels, different degrees and stuff like this. Now I'm pointing out JDA Talks because if you listen to him, every comic in the comic book industry is terrible. He craps on Absolute Batman even though Absolute Batman is doing well. Yes, I know there are people who argue, oh, the numbers, but it doesn't matter. The matter point is that Absolute Batman does sell well. And they're on like their 10th reprint. I know people who started reading comic books again because of Absolute Batman and the Absolute Universe. A guy who's like a brother to me. He started picking up comics. He picks up all the Absolutes. The Absolutes got him back into comic books. Now, he's never hated them, but he kind of fell off. But this literally got him to do it. And then his girl started buying comics. That's what comics are supposed to do. Now, when he mentions this thing about, well, anime is looked down as a cartoon, and we don't do that. The funny thing is these same people, you will talk to them, and some of their favorite movies are Marvel movies. MCU. Even with the stuff being not so great right now, you talk to them, they're like, oh, I love that movie. Or they love Hellboy. Or they do love the Transformers movie, or other stuff. It's the problem with American comics. And one of the big issues that I personally see is that there's a ton of variety. I mean, I'm just gonna pick up some randoms right here. We got Al Snow featuring this. This is a cowboy comic thing with wrestlers. Night Wraith is kind of like a Spawn thing. Big F off worms. That's a whole thing. Which I gotta see if there's this is issue 2. I gotta see if there's an issue 3 where they're just like fighting. This has nothing to do with superheroes. Like I said, I'm just grabbing random comics. 3 Keys, nothing to do with superheroes. Soul Kickers, nothing to do with superheroes. The issue isn't the fact of superheroes. The issue is the storytelling. I watched My Hero Academia and I freaking loved it. I was like, I wish Marvel would take the right notes from this. The issue most of the time is you're not taking the right lesson. Now, I do agree with them about you can't just copy their art style. The thing is that the story needs to be accessible. And honestly, a lot of anime is fantasy stories. Like I said, isekai and fantasy stories right now. Even One Piece, it's a fantasy pirate story. And it has martial arts. Usually you're getting one, like look at Baki and stuff. What I think is wrong with the comic book industry is that people are taking their personal like proclivities and they're forgetting that the story should come first. They want to get their message out. They want to get this thing out. And I'm not saying that you can't have something be political either. But it's like you're trying to own the chuds. You're trying to do this, and that's the problem. I mean, we got these whisper networks and stuff, and don't get me wrong, manga and stuff ain't perfect. They got issues and stuff over there, too, with how people write, how they work, how they do everything. But Berserk is fantasy. Like I said, we got Conan the Barbarian. We got all these comics. Here's where the problem is and why manga is dominating, at least how I see it. Part of it's promotion. They are very promoted. They have these things. The other issue is it's when I use the term, or I used this example before where I said Velma, that last series, Mindy Kaling's, that's woke. Miles Morales, his movies, that's diversity. There is a difference. It's how you convey the message. Also, not everything needs to be always hyper political. A lot of comics, I've talked to people. I'm like, hey, yo, I could get you into comic books. I'm trying to always do it. I buy indie comics, as you see. I try to get people into comic books. And some of them tell me, like, they say, especially ones that used to read them and maybe stop. I talk to them. And they're like, I feel like they're preaching at me. I feel like they're doing this. It depends on how you tell the story. The reason why I use JDA Talks is because he constantly talks about how his stuff is good and stuff like that. And this one person from this Eisner winner said he was great. And he does it. Hey, more power to him. It's your channel. You should promote your stuff. If I was writing again, I would promote my stuff on my channel, as you should. That is your platform. Like I said, Eric Jai does it. Even myself does it. I bet you if Commentary came out something, Blurred has done it. Comments by Perch has done it. And you should. But it comes at a point where you're constantly saying everything in the mainstream is bad. Every Spider-Man comic's bad. Every Hulk comic is bad. Like, there's no good comics whatsoever. And that's bull. But you have all these people who are so hyper-politicized about everything that they create a bad culture on something in the industry that's not doing so high. And what it really comes down to is that anime does get you to want to read the manga. And I'm not a manga reader. And the funny thing is, I've had mangas come to me, and then I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And the next thing I know, like Solo Leveling, I heard about it. It was on Webtoon. I started picking it up. Next thing I know, it's an anime. And then somehow Amazon started suggesting me things. And it's funny. The Gachuchin thing about the trash people, the new fighting a rooster. Every time I get the book, it's like, oh, and it'll give me like a discount on the book. And I'm like, oh, cool. It's like $5 book. Okay, or a $3 book. Or sometimes $1. I'm like, great. The next thing you know later, it's an anime. But that's where the problem comes in. How did we have all of these Marvel movies and they don't translate into sales? You want to know something manga does and anime does that's better? One, they have a writer and an artist, or the writer is the artist, and they're on the book the entire time. Or they're at least on it for a while, which American comics switch out. Two, American comics do not pay out when it's like superstar artists and stuff. They'll get a superstar artist to do like a cover and that's it. Which we should have superstar teams writing and stuff. It used to be back in the day, you would write the backups and stuff. And if your stuff kind of picked up, they would move you to a main book. They would see how you were doing. You would get there. You would work it. You would do it. And all this stuff. They don't do that anymore. They go for really cheap artists and they go for really cheap writers and they're barely spending any money, even though these are owned by multi-billion-dollar companies. Why isn't Marvel having these top-tier stars writing their stuff? They have Disney. Warner Brothers is up there. Yes, they're having some money issues, but you have plenty of money that you could be putting superstar artists, superstar writers on these things. Look what's happening with Absolute Universe. You know why Partly is doing well and why Partly Ultimate Universe is doing so well? First off, here's another big thing. The like Tom Reworth and them, they're constantly antagonizing the fan base. People tell you, we want Spider-Man and Mary Jane. You're never getting that. That's not a good way to approach something. If you have a ton of people telling you this is what we want, and you're like, no, we're going to do this, people are not going to buy your book. Stop antagonizing the fans. And I'm not saying defend yourself if a fan is a jerk to you, because there are fans who are jerks, but overall, you should be a professional. And a lot of them aren't. And they got some good writers. Some of them aren't so good. It happens. I'm not saying I'm the best writer ever, but I've got published twice. You probably never even heard of it. One of them was called You Are Not Alone. I was the first story in that comic book. I can't even get a copy because it was under Shadowline. I mean, I was proud of it. It didn't go anywhere, but some people did. I gave a couple of copies to the kids. I wish I knew it was so limited, because I would have kept one. I wanted to mount it. It was the first time I ever did it. Second time I got published in this other thing. Big whoop. That doesn't mean I'm the greatest ever. And the big thing is that, yes, anime sells the manga and the manga sells the anime. Yes, the communities do fight. I see it all the time. Well, the manga is better. Well, the anime is better. Well, dub and sub and but the thing is that they're watching. Even when they're all butting heads. Down here, I like manga. I like anime better. Well, manga's better. Anime is better. Oh, dub and sub. Well, dub is just blah, blah. Why do you do dub? Dub sucks. Well, I don't want to read the whole time. I'd rather just listen and get it. So I think dub is better. Yet, all of them are watching. All of them are consuming the product. Transformers is doing well because it's telling us its story. Can you have some things in there that could be a certain type of way? Of course. Of course you can. But American comics, I think, lay it on a lot of times too thick in the wrong places. But to sit here and say, well, they have a better advantage than us. No, they don't. It's because your storytelling is dry. And that doesn't mean like I said, I'm enjoying some comics. I'm enjoying them. I'll be covering some more. I'm only doing the trades. I don't do the floppies like that. Just because I can't keep up that way. I don't read them like that. I read them periodically. When I'm doing stuff, when I have a quiet moment, or if I feel like reading a novel or something. But at the end of the day, I mean, we have He-Man comics. We have all these comic books. There's tons of them. That's not even including all the crowdfunding. Some of these were crowdfunders. Some of them weren't. But I think American comics need to do is they need to reset, reevaluate, especially Marvel and DC. Take the right lessons. You can tell multiple stories. You have superhero stories. If you're going to do Vertigo and all that, yes, do those stories. And that's why I was confused with Jim Lee. And I'm like, do you not know the company you work for? I just named a bunch of comics that you do. American Vampire and stuff like that. Horror comics especially are really good. Hack Slash. These comics work, but you gotta make them on their angle, and you gotta hit them where it is. And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying you can't be political at all. But if the whole time you're making comics about Donald Trump, and you're like, well, I'm going to make this allegory to Donald Trump, or I'm going to have this Donald Trump, and I'm going to do this about Donald Trump. Like, come on. Or the Republicans, or you're ostracizing half the nation. And that, or if you're saying, well, Republicans suck, keep that to your Twitter or to yourself. When you're writing a character, and that character has a history, and that character has a personality, and they're not some made-up character, you need to keep that character on par with who they are. Yes, you're going to put your flavor in there, like what Donny Cates did with Venom, where now the green in the tongue is the way he excrement, which was actually cool. And he added his stuff, he added his lore, he put his thing to it, and King in Black has been a long-running thing now. It's really awesome. It put Venom up there because he told a good story. And like I said, I am not saying you can't be political. I thought the Absolute Batman thing was pretty awesome with the white supremacist thing. Now, he talks, of course, and like I said, his thing is, he has like Absolute Batman, his first complaint, Barbara Gordon's black. Or like with Superman, where he's like, oh, I call it Mr. Terrific and the multi-diverse friends, because Superman needed help to get out the thing, even though, spoiler alert, Superman already escaped the thing with Metamorpho. They just needed to get him out of that dimension. Also in Superman comics, Superman doesn't handle everything all by himself all the time. Mr. Terrific was just a standout character. That's where I say some of your anti is showing, JDA, and some of these guys. And it does. Now, that doesn't mean they're not informative, and no human is perfect. that does annoy me, because I'm like, every time there's a black character, I'll see them do this, and people make things very political. But then they also make characters like Featherweight that you could clearly see as a rage bait character. And before anybody jumps on me about that, let's be clear. I've said this more than once, and I am doing a video because I'm very excited that they just announced that they're going to do Justice League Intergalactic, and Dreamer's on there. I buy comics if Dreamer's in it. Dreamer is a trans character. Dreamer is awesome. Because Dreamer is written by Nicole Maines. Usually Dreamer is handled, and I'm not even saying it always is the best story. I don't care. The thing about Dreamer that's so cool is that Dreamer is a proper representation. And this is going for a character who's black, gay, trans, anything under the sun, anything. The character, I should not see like a black character come up and like do the thing off of CB4 talking about, I'm black, y'all. I'm black, y'all. I'm bliggity biggity black, y'all. I'm blacker than black. Do you know I'm black? Do you know I'm black? Huh? Do you know I'm black? Same thing when I read Iceman's comic. What annoyed me, it was like every time I turn around, Iceman's like, oh, I wonder if this guy likes me. You know, I'm gay. Yes, I like this guy likes me. Oh, I kissed this guy randomly, even though I didn't even ask for permission. I just randomly kissed him because I'm cavalier. Even though I got a boyfriend who loves me and I'm alive because of that boyfriend, but for some reason I'm going to cheat on my boyfriend because, you know, I'm gay. So let me go and talk about the love of my life with my boyfriend, who I happen to be gay, whose powers didn't even work that way, but we decided to do that because I'm gay. Like, that's annoying. Even if it was a straight character, I'm straight. Do you know I'm straight? Hey, you know I'm straight. I love the ladies. You know I'm straight, right? Straightest guy. You know I love ladies. I love them. That's annoying. And that's how they write a lot of these characters. They're like one note. It's like whatever that one thing is they're supposed to represent, that's all they write them about. And that's where one of the main problems come in. I can tell you about Goku and how Goku's a multi-layered character. He's kind of dumb. He loves to fight. He's heroic, but he's also a really good, kind-hearted person. That's why he can go in Nimbus. Luffy, carefree, but he cares about people. He cares deeply about people, and he will put his neck on the line for his friends. Kaiju number 8. Freaking love that series. That's not a superhero series. It has superhero flair, but it's not a superhero series. Yet that character, his whole thing is that he's trying to follow a dream that he gave up on as an adult, which I love the fact that he's not some teenager. We also try to villainize, a lot of creators try to villainize manga and anime, which also makes it more popular. So that's a thing too. So all in all, you know, I'm running at the mouth. I made this video. Like I said, you'll see the images of all the different types of comics that are on here that aren't that. So at the end of the day, what my biggest issue comes down to is this. But Jim Lee made a great point. You want manga sales. I mean, we got manga sales in the millions. We used to have comics in the millions. You want comics to get back up there. You need to figure out what the niche is, and you also need to promote them better. Put money behind promoting them. And don't make one-off characters as rage bait just to do it, because like I said, Featherweight, I'll do a video about that and why I think Featherweight is rage bait instead of being a genuine character. And there's a few of these characters that they've made like this, and it's like, I want these characters to stick around. That's the other thing. You write them, you make them, and then you just like put them off into the ether. And then what you do is you take a character who's been established as something and you change their identity, which is terrible. It's lazy writing to me. And if you're going to change their identity, you need to do a series of things like what they did to Iceman. Gene, you're gay. Oh, I'm not. Yes, you are. That's why some people are like, no, she used her powers and did that. Because it was so jarring. And then people are like, oh, remember these 3 different moments that happened in this comic book over the course of like since the 60s, where he made a joke here, did that there, and dated this one person here, even though he broke up with her because she kept changing into a man. Well, that means he's gay. No, what you should have done, and same thing with Tim Drake, you should be writing, if you're going to make a character change their sexuality like that, which is changing a fundamental thing about the character, why aren't you respecting the LGBTQ community with this? Where you're giving that character a storyline. You're talking about, like, Tim Drake. And they made Tim Drake weird, like, better. Where he's like, oh, I'm now this. It was, like, not even Tim Drake anymore for a while. When he did that weird comic with him and the dude. And it's like they turned them so hard into it because they're like, well, we want you to know that they're gay, right? They're bi. No, you should tell the story about how the character journeyed into that. Their thoughts, their feelings. How they may be nervous about talking to the characters. Also, too, stop having every superhero just go, oh, okay, it's cool that you're gay. Some of them are not going to be okay with that. And you should tell that story too. One of the reasons why I love Dreamer, in Supergirl, Dreamer, they were seeing who was going to get the powers of the dream, right? And the sister was upset because they were all accepting Dreamer being a trans person until Dreamer got the powers. And the sister was like, you're not even a real woman. The real came out because the jealousy came out with the powers, and then she had to deal with that. That was like good writing. Yes, Supergirl, I get it. Supergirl's not the best thing ever, but Dreamer, that's why I fell in love with Dreamer, that version, not the Legion of Superheroes version, because she went through it, and yes, she was trans, but it was good storytelling. The journey that she had to go through, the situations, how she had to deal with this, how she got with Brainy, how she did this. Like, it felt like I was following a person's journey. And that's one of the big issues, too. They keep trying to force all these diverse characters in here, but you're not even giving them the respect they deserve for the journey. And then when a few do, it's amazing. Like what they've done with Storm. Incredible. But you got to promote it. So, I know I've rambled on for a while. I know this video is going to go long, but this is all I'm going to say. Jim Lee, you need to know your product because you have a lot of comics that aren't about this. And like I say, he's one of my favorite artists, but that's what I say. And I think American comics, we have all types of stories. Like I said, I put a bunch on there. It's the way we tell and convey, and we need to promote them. You need to promote the comics, promote the stories, not just promote Batman and Spider-Man. Promote other characters. We should have more Green Arrow characters. Also, not every person should be writing Batman, making up a new villain. Every time someone writes Batman, they make a new villain. Stop making up villains. He doesn't need any more villains. Stop it. Give it to another character. Write another character. Green Arrow, Roy Harper, Wally West, I don't care. Stop doing that. Just like with Spider-Man, they tell some good stories. I like that one where he's in space right now dealing with that dude. That's a good story. Previous one sucks because screw Paul. So I think these characters need to have respect. Marvel needs to kind of take a step back, re-evaluate what they're writing, and do a set. And stop. Don't do 50 X-Men comics. You only should do like maybe 5 to 10. Or X titles. Maybe 15 if you're going to do X-Forces stuff. Like, they need to reevaluate. Also, it's the cost. Manga is really cheap. And you can jump in. Also, that's another factor. A lot of people don't know where to jump in. You guys don't make good entry points where if I want to read a manga, I get volume 1 and I work my way up. Volume 1's hard, I'll get the app. Shonen app or something. And for the people that sit there and go, it's really hard. It's not that hard to jump into comics. We got, what? Marvel Unlimited, DC has a thing. I had that. Global Comics, all these things. You have access. All you need to do is jump in. And one of the best ways to jump in, if you need that tip, when they have a new writing team, jump in. And also follow the writers and the artists that you like. That's it. Jump in. That's a good starting point. It's usually when a new writer gets in there. If you want to get the old comics, get some back issues. Give you something to read. But that's one of the things, too, is the accessibility, which DC's working on. Those little mini books are really doing well, and I notice a lot of people are picking them up because they're kind of easy to jump in. And sometimes they're one-and-done kind of stories. So that's all I got to say. I know I've rambled on, but tell me what you think. I think promotion. Stop doing simplistic political stories or doing agendas without true thought behind it, and care for the characters and care for the situation of what they are, whether they're gay, trans, lesbian, black, white, Asian, any of these, anything under the sun. You need to respect what you're writing and who you're writing about. You also need to tell awesome stories. Absolute works because Wonder Woman's story is based around magic. Superman's story is based around him trying to be accepted. Flash's story is science fiction. This is what used to get them good back in the day. After they went from the Golden Age to the Silver Age, Flash was science. They built a lot of science stuff, but Green Lantern became a core, and it's like more military, and these things happen, and Superman did it. Like, that's what you have to do, and that's why I think Absolute works. Batman has a detective, hardcore, brutal story. Superman's story is about being that hero of hope. Wonder Woman's story deals with a lot of magic and mythology. Martian Manhunter's story deals with the crazy mindset stuff. Even the Ultimate Universe, you got characters like the X-Men who are dealing with like weird magic stuff and mutants. But Wolverine is about redemption and pain and trauma. Spider-Man's story is about family. The Ultimates is about fighting back the system. There's a reason why these comics are selling well, because each one has their own flavor and they're just telling their story. Do they have some stuff in there? Sure, but they're telling their story too. And that's the thing. The story comes first. Then everything else. When you watch One Piece, yes, the characters you do connect with, but the story tells you the stuff too. Same with Dragon Ball and everything else. It's the story and the connection and the promotion. And their other media makes you want to read it. They all feed each other. The games make you want to read this. You want to play the games and stuff. American comics need to figure that out. If you're going to keep making movies, those movies should translate into sales. And one of the biggest things you need to do, and I'll leave you with this. Stop killing off the character when their movie's about to come out. The death of Doctor Strange when Doctor Strange 2 is about to come out. And if you're going to make a comic book about the Avengers, make them look like the Avengers in the thing, the synergy. I actually had people I remember who was like, I'm going to read Avengers. Why is Thor a girl? I had people actually ask that. I was in a comic shop. They're like, wait, why is this guy Captain America? What the heck's going on? Synergy. You need to have the group. What you're going to do, people are going to then want to go read that. That's how you do that. That doesn't mean you should. Hey, you have the main Avengers group be what you see in the movies, and then you have a West Coast Avengers, or New Avengers, or the Savage Avengers or something. That's where you put the other like kind of weird groups in there. But getting the one, you want to get their foot in the door, and you want to keep reading. I read Godzilla right now. It's good stuff. So tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm off, but that's kind of my ramble. Geek Protagonist, you stay safe, you stay healthy, stay real, and I'll see ya.